Okay, hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Tea Time with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today is the 27th of September 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Friday's afternoon session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Also, just a quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website, but specifically our JFD research page, which you can find under the research tab here. And I believe you can find a lot of useful stuff here, guys. So feel free to visit us on jfdbank.com. So yep, like I said, I believe you can find a lot of good stuff here. But right now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here, and I want to get a quick update here on the FTSE. So I looked at this one this morning, and I kept looking at this one for a few days this week. And basically, what I was saying this morning that we were still kind of the cash index was still below the 7,380 zone. So what I was saying that if we get a nice pop above this, then yep, this could be opening the path towards higher levels. We did get our nice pop. I mean, it was a strong move higher. The index managed to reach the area around here, and let me just quickly put this one on the chart near the 7,440 zone. So this became quite an interesting area of resistance. Of course, our target is around the 7,476-77 zone. But you can see that the index traveled higher. It tested this level, the 74440. 440, yep, there we go. And now it's retracing back down a little bit. If it continues to trade above this 7,380 zone, well, of course, we will continue aiming for higher levels. Again, we'll target this 7,440 zone, a break of which could open and lead the index towards our target near the 7,476-77 zone. So for now, we are more bullish than bearish on this one, even though we are seeing a bit of retracement. But this retracement, of course, will be classed as a correction. So as long as it remains above the 7,380 zone, if it starts dropping below this, well, I mean, this could enter our kind of neutral territory around here, because it could end up moving sideways again. Because for us to start looking at lower levels, ideally, we would need to see a drop below the 7,200 level. So keep your eyes on this one. But as I said, I wanted to give you a quick update on what's happening here with the FTSE, and like I said, it is current for now kind of working nicely according to plan. But let's see if it can stay above the 7,300 zone, 380 zone. So if it stays, then yep, we will continue aiming for our 7,476 zone. If not this week, and not today, then yep, maybe next week. So let's see how this is going to play out. WTI oil, also a quick update. I talked about this one this morning. We were still hanging around the upside support line. Now the dollar strengthened a little bit, but you can see that the oil kind of, or actually, I do apologize. Yep, yes, the dollar did strengthen against some of the pairs. We'll have a look at that. But looking at this commodity right now, the WTI oil, so when we managed to get our drop below the 55.60 zone, of course we initially managed to drop below this upside line. The big question here is, will we see a daily close below this area or not? If it stays below, then yes, we will continue aiming to the downside next week. We'll aim for the 54 area or even the 53 zone. So Again, for us now, we need to see a close below this 55.60. We got our break. Of course, now everything's looking more bearish than bullish. But again, like I said, just for that extra confirmation, wait for a close below the 55.60, and then we could aim for lower levels going into next week. In terms of the upside, for us, if let's say this decides to stay above the 55.60 and let's say travels back above the this upside line here, then yep, this is going to be our little bit of a neutral territory. But if it pushes above the 57.33 zone, now this is when we'll get more excited about the upside and aim for the 59.50 zone. So keep your eyes on this one, keep your eyes on some of these levels. Let's see how this is going to play out today. CAD yen, I talked about this one yesterday. Fantastic move today to the upside. So the Canadian dollar strengthened against the Japanese yen. Japanese yen is the main loser today against all its major counterparts. And this is the technical picture that I was talking about yesterday. So in my trader's tea time, and basically what I was saying, that if we get a nice pop above the 81.35 zone, this could open the path initially towards the 81.70. But then our next target could be around the 82.10. So for now, we can see that the pair got held near its R2, which is roughly near the 81.55 zone. It did overshoot it a little bit, but quickly got back below it, and now it seems like it's currently struggling to push further. But for now, to be honest, given this move, we will aim for this 81.70 zone. If it's not today, maybe in the beginning of next week. But again, given the fact that it broke above the 81.35 zone, this increases the chances for a further move north. And like I said, initially we'll aim for the 81.70, and after that we'll target the 82.10. But let's see how this is going to play out. In terms of the downside here right now, well, this is becoming quite interesting. So in a way, initially yesterday, what I was talking about, that we needed to in order for us to get comfortable with lower levels, ideally we would need to see a drop below the 80.70s, 72 zone, something like that, approximately around there. But given that it already had distanced itself from this level, this potential breakout point, in a way we could start looking at lower levels if we see a move back below the downside line. Of course, initially a drop below this level could help, the 81.07, but ideally if we see a drop below the downside line and a drop below the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, then we will aim for this level here, the 80.72. But if that fails to withhold, now this is where the pair would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could target areas like the 80.24 or even below that. But again, for now, it seems that the downside could be slightly off the table. USDJPY, so this one's moving higher as well. It made a nice move above its 107.88 zone. And now it's traveling higher. It also made a move above, of course, it made a move above the 107.96 zone. So basically, it's in the territory above the 108 zone. So again, for now, everything's leaning more towards the upside. If it continues to trade above this 108 zone, then yes, we will continue aiming for the 108.47. This is basically the high of the 18th of September, and after that, we'll take it from there. See what he wants to do. Maybe it'll decide to do a double top or something like that. But for now, the of course, we're leaning more towards the upside. It could, in a way, today still travel towards the 108.28 zone, which is around the R2. Today's R2. It's currently kind of stuck just slightly above the R1, so it still kind of is giving hope for the buyers. But to be honest, I mean, in terms of the 108.48, unless something drastic happens during the US session, and only then, yep, we will aim for that. I mean, but for now, like I said, looking at this picture, of course, it is more positive than negative, but initially let's aim for the 108.28, which is today's R2. If it breaks above this, then yep, we will aim for the 108.47, and then we'll take it from there, see what he wants to do after. In terms of the downside, if this, let's say, suddenly reverses sharply and drops below this area right here, near the 107.62, of course, we'll then aim for the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart, and after that, we'll see how it performs, what it wants to do. If it wants to drift further down, yes, we will consider lower levels, but for now, it seems that the downside could be slightly off the table. So, guys, keep your eyes on this one. Jumping into another pair very quickly, that's EURGBP. So this one here is quite interesting because, I've cleared the chart a little bit just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So after it managed to find support near the 0.8785 zone, it was a perfect hit. It reversed to the upside, but what's more interesting is, and if I'm going to quickly draw this downside line here. So we are basically, we've managed to break the downside line, but as you can see, the pair is kind of drifting back below it. So in a way, the big question here is, will we see a daily close below this, or will it actually stay above this downside line? So for now, of course, we can see that the 4-hour candle kind of violated this downside line. It broke above it, but the next 4-hour candle is kind of drifting back down, but still it's not finished. So of course, the big question here is, will this pair in general stay above this downside line, or will actually end the week below it? So looking at this daily chart, and this is what I'm talking about. So basically, you can see that the pair is currently balancing slightly below it. On the daily chart, you can see clearly that it managed to travel higher, tested the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart, and this is what held. On the daily chart, the 200 EMA on the daily chart, it tested that, and this is what kind of held the rate from accelerating further. And you can see that the bears stepped in here and are still pushing the pair back down. So again, like I said, I'll repeat myself, keep an eye on the daily chart, keep an eye on the daily candle. If we see a close below this, then there is a good chance we could see this pair drifting back down here into the downside during next week. But if it stays above it, and let's say by any chance it has enough steam if the bulls have enough steam to push this one and close the daily chart, daily candle above the 200 EMA here, well, then this could be a sign of a potential change in the short-term trend here, and we could see this one pushing higher. So all eyes are on this daily candle today, guys. GBPUSD. Looking at this daily picture, of course, it sold off initially, but let me just jump back into a 4-hour chart. You can see that it did sell off initially, and yesterday when I was talking about this one, I was telling you to keep an eye on this level right here, the 1.2310. So if we get a drop below this, then our next target is around the 1.2280 zone. So, but of course, if that fails to withhold, then we could see this one drifting further south. But as you can see, the 1.2280 zone acted as a fantastic area of support here today, and the pair is now drifting, at least trying to push back up here. So for now, how we could look at this is, basically, first of all, let me just clear this chart very quickly, guys, because too many lines. And the way how we could look at this, I mean, of course, the good sign here is that the bulls are really trying to fight hard and trying to push this pair back up. But as you can see, it's currently still struggling to push above its pivot, today's pivot, which is around the 1.2337. Of course, if it suddenly, let's say, if the bulls suddenly find the power from somewhere to lift this one above the pivot and push it above the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, then there could be a bit of hope here for the buyers, and especially if the pair travels back above this 1.2380 zone again. So we'll get rid of this neckline that so basically the pair has already completed the head and shoulders pattern. It managed to hit a target, but if it now travels back above the 1.2380, then there could be a good chance for GBPUSD to drift north next week. For now, we are more bearish than bullish on this one, but especially we'll get more bearish if we see a drop below the 1.2280 zone right here, and then we will aim for further declines. So for now, all eyes are on this 1.2380 zone. Of course, I doubt that it could reach this today unless something drastic happens. But let's say what you could do, what's more kind of realistic, is to keep an eye on this 200 EMA and today's pivot. So if we get a push above the if we get a daily close above the 200 EMA here, then yep, we could see this one maybe pushing higher next week, but then again it would need to overcome this 1.2380 zone first. So that's, but in terms of the downside here, how you could approach this is wait for a drop below the 1.2280 zone again, and then aim for lower levels. For now, we are going to just continue observing this one. We're not going to touch it. We're just going to see what he wants to do and where it's going to close today. So yep, guys, be very careful with it and probably stay away from it today, unless you see something that I don't see, but then yeah, but at least have your stop loss in place. EURUSD, I talked about this one this morning, and for now it's working out nicely the way I've mentioned it, the way I've talked about it this morning. And basically, after it found good support near the 1.0905 zone, the pair drifted back up, and this is what I was talking about. So we could see this potential correction to the upside. Maybe it could stall around here somewhere, and then we could see another leg of selling. So for now, you can see that on the 4-hour chart here, it did travel higher. It tested the area around the 1.0950, and now it's drifting back down. The big question here is, can it drift to the downside further today? But again, this is a bit of a tricky one, because you can see on one hand, yes, it tried to push higher, but is now kind of failing to push further north. But on the other hand, it's still balancing above this 1.0924 level, this key area that we were keeping a close eye on throughout the whole week, because this was basically the previous lowest point of September. So it did create a new low this September for now, of course, the 1.0904. But again, this 1.0925 zone is kind of an important 1.0924 zone is quite an important one to watch. So in a way, how we could look at this, if we stay above this level today, then well, we could in a way see maybe this one correcting a little bit higher next week, going higher, and then we'll take it from there. But if, let's say, if it struggles to push back above the 1.0964 zone or something like that, then we could see maybe another leg of selling. If this decides to close below the 1.0924, then yep, we will be more bearish on this one, because it could in a way drift. It could in a way continue drifting further down, especially if it drops below the current lowest point of September, around the 1.0904. So keep your eyes on this one, guys. It's quite an interesting one. Again, also in a similar way like with the GBPUSD, I would probably stay away from this one today. Just to see how this is going to perform, how this is going to act, and if it's, like I said, if it stays above the 1.0924, then we could see a bit of a correction to the upside next week. But if it decides to remain below the 1.0924, then well, we'll keep a close eye on the current lowest point of September, and we could see then maybe a break of it and a confirmation of the forthcoming lower low then. So that's why, guys, for now, be very careful with this one. Okay, guys, I really hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. I hope you had a fantastic week. So if you want to join me next week, as always, we'll start off on Monday with my Traders Espresso. That's 6 o'clock GMT time. But for now, I hope you have a beautiful evening. I hope you have a beautiful, fantastic weekend, guys. And I'll see you next week. Thank you very much, and bye bye.